friends, are you ready?
3, 2, 1.
Good day everyone, my name is Jayla Mae A.Gatdula. So for today, I will show you my presentation. It's all about the power control theory and Sigmund Freud's theory of Venus and B. So before we start, let's start with the objectives. At the end of the discussion, the student should first is learn define the concept of power control theory and Sigmund Freud's theory of penis and B. The second is know the proponent of two theory, and the third is explain the gender and delinquency under the power control theory, and the last is significance each of the 5 stages of Freud's psychosexual development. So let's start with the main proponent of power control theory of John Hagan. John Hagan is John D. MacArthur Professor of Sociology and the Law of Northwestern University and co-director of the Center of the Law and Globalization at the American Bar Foundation in Chicago. John Hagan's power control theory explains the different crime rates between men and women. Did you know that men and women commit different types of crimes at different rates? For example, men are more likely to commit crimes than women in general. Although there's been a change in the number since the late 20th century, men are also more likely to commit violent crimes such as murder. Next is the basis of the power control theory is the basic assumption of the control theories that not deviant but adapted behavior must be explained. Every person would behave deviantly if he or she were not prevented from doing so by social control. For power control theory, it is primarily the family that exercises control early in a person's life. If this control is lacking, a greater freedom and choice of behavior possibilities arises depending on the educational goal each person develops a certain degree of self-control. When we say deviant, it is departing from usual or accepted standards, especially in social or sexual behavior. Next is the gender and delinquency under the power control theory. The power control theory holds the gender distribution of delinquency is caused by stratification from gender relation within this family. The theory states that the class, gender, and type of family structures will influence the severity of social or parental control practice, which will in turn set the accepted norm for the child or individual. This is the theory that the parent controls that he is the one who will set the standard for the child or the individual. Next is the theory compares gender and parental control mechanism in two different types of families, patriarchal and egalitarian. First is the patriarchal families. Traditional gender roles were in practice where the father would work outside the home and the mother would be responsible for the child rearing. This is the traditional role of the family where the father will work and the mother will raise the children or work inside the house. Another in the patriarchal families, the male partner has more power and the girls are socialized into the inferior role at an early age and are exposed to more intensive control than boys. They are granted more freedom, allowing to engage more delinquent behavior. And the next is egalitarian families. The household roles will share equality between mothers and fathers. This is a family where its members share equally with each other. For example, what happens to him on a daily basis. He shares stories that happen, for example, at school. Another in the egalitarian family, his form of socialization changes and girls have more freedom. As a result, they also to risk behavior and delinquency. Boys, on the other hand, show less delinquent behavior in egalitarian families because the expectation of the roles change. The next is the Sigmund Freud theory of penis and B. In 1856 to 1939, he is recognized as the father of psychoanalysis. He believed that men carry with him residue of the most significant emotional attachments of this childhood, and which then guide future interpersonal relationship. He founded a psychoanalytic or psychodynamic theory of criminality, in which he attributed delinquent and criminal behavior to a conscience that is overbearing, which arouses feelings of guilt, a conscience that is so weak that it cannot control the individual's impulses and the need for immediate gratification. And Sigmund Freud's, he believed that when female children realize they lack a penis, they feel castrated in comparison to males. When we say castrated, remove the testicles of like a male animal or man. There are different types of castrating, or castration may be accomplished by physical, chemical, or hormonal techniques. Next is in this theory of psychosexual development, Freud suggested that during the phallic stage, around the ages of 3 to 6 years, young girls distance themselves from their mothers and instead devote their affections to their fathers. Then, psychosexual development refers to how children develop sexuality and gender identity. Become sexuality encompasses sexual desires, while gender identity is how person feels. Then, according to Freud, this occurs when a girl realizes that she has no penis, holds their mothers responsible for their lack of a penis, and do not forgive her for their being thus put at a disadvantage. And while Freud believed that the discovery of the Oedipal complex and related stories such as castration, anxiety, and penis envy were his greatest accomplishment, their theories are perhaps his most criticized. Then female psychoanalysis such as Karen Horney and other feminist thinkers have described his ideas as distorted and condescending. The counterfeit theory to the Oedipal complex is the Electra complex. Then, however, he also believed that penis envy persists throughout life and plays a role in mental health issues. For instance, Freud thought that females tend to experience more jealousy than males and that this is a displacement of their penis envy. And these are the 5 stages of psychosexual development theory, associated with a corresponding age, range, and erogenous body part and clinical consequence of fixation. I'm start in the eros. The basic human drive present at birth, the instinct to preserve and create life and express sexually. First is oral stage to 0-1 2 year. We have the mouth. During the first year of life, the mouth is the principal organ. Gratification is by sucking the breast of mother and bottom. So, usually during the first year of life, when the child is attains pleasure by sucking and biting. Second is the anal stage, 1 to 3 years old, bowel and bladder. Membranes of the anal region provide pleasure, not passing fecal matter also gives pleasure to the child. Focus on the elimination of bodily waste during the second and the third years of life. And the third is phallic stage, 36 years old, genitalia. So, this is self-manipulation of the genital organs. The child also identifies the group to which he belongs, that is difference between him and his younger sister. So, during the third year, then when child is focused their attention on their genitals. And we have the two complex, we have the difference between complex. There's Oedipus complex and Electra complex. So in Oedipus complex, a stage of development when males begin to have sexual feelings for their fathers. And Electra complex is a stage of development when girls begin to have sexual feelings for their fathers. So the next is latency. Latency is a stage of psychosexual development when over sexual or interest. So it begins at age of 6. Feelings of sexuality are expressed until the genital stage begins of puberty, this marks the beginning of adult sexuality. And the last, the genital stage, 13 to 18 years old. Mature sexual feelings. This is the final stage of psychosexual development. So we have the fixated person. It is exhibit behavior traits characteristics of those encountered during infantile sexual development. An infant who does not receive enough oral gratification during the first year of life is likely as an adult engage such oral behavior as smoking, drinking, or drug abuse and others. So this is deepest feelings of pleasure are said to come from heterosexual relations. And so for the summary of penis envy is a pseudo-scientific theory that claims female children experience profound distress upon realizing they do not have a penis. Sigmund Freud, who coined the term of he believed penis envy could contributed to mental illness. The concept of penis envy has no scientific evidence to support it, and it has received significant criticism from other psychologists. Despite this, penis envy was a very influential theory for much of the 20th century, but among people who agree and disagree with it, today mental health professionals generally do not apply the theory in their work.
And that's all. Thank you for listening.